Child has meltdown, Stanger's actions catch mom off guard. Natalie had been having a particularly bad day with her son. When a strange man appeared on the pier, her first instinct was to tense up a little. She was accustomed to strangers not understanding Rudy and his antics. Natalie expected the stares and judgmental looks she usually got. Instead, what this stranger did stunned her completely. Natalie Fernando's greatest joy was being a mother. When her son, Rudy Fernando, was born, she was as ecstatic as any mother. Her little boy was here and more beautiful than she could have ever imagined. However, as he grew, her little Rue began to show signs that he was different. All parents know that children go through demanding phases that present challenges in their toddler years. We've all heard of the terrible twos and the resultant tantrums that come with it. These difficult periods usually also coincide with the developmental milestones that temper these moments with overloads of cuteness. However, when Rudy's continuous tantrums weren't accompanied by ordinary milestones, Natalie grew concerned. Kids all develop at different rates, but there are usually similarities between the age groups when certain behaviors are expected to start subsiding. When Rudy's tantrums weren't easing up, Natalie knew her son faced unique challenges. Most parents are naturally more tolerant of their kids' behavior, but, unfortunately, strangers are generally less understanding. It wasn't long before Natalie learned that Rudy's extra challenges were not by chance. Soon, her little Rue was diagnosed with a form of autism. A native of Essex, Natalie was well informed enough to understand that autism did not mean what many people thought. It simply meant that Rudy was different and needed special care. Many parents of autistic children often struggle as kids on the spectrum present with difficult behaviors and require added attention. Unfortunately, the extra pressure this places on a parent isn't always handled appropriately. Natalie's experiences taught her that this only added to the negative stereotypes and stigma that autistic children faced. However, Natalie was no ordinary mom and sprang into action to combat this problem. Rather than shrink from the challenges of raising a child on the spectrum or allowing it to overwhelm her, Natalie made it her mission to change people's perceptions. As a blogger, ASD advocate counselor and wellness coach, Natalie began creating support structures for other families that faced these struggles. Despite all her efforts, this didn't mean that never struggled herself. As much as Natalie was far more adept than most at handling Rudy's tantrums and difficult behaviors, these grew more challenging whenever they were out in public. The average stranger doesn't realize that an autistic child screaming, yelling, moaning, or tantrums are not their fault. To others, it was just bad behavior, and most strangers usually reacted with judgment and dirty looks during these moments. One fateful day, Natalie was out with Rudy for a walk on the South End on Sea Pier. The air was salty and the wind brisk. Whatever riled up Rudy that day, the result was a familiar tantrum. Aside from the screaming and fussing, Rudy lay down on the ground and refused to wake up. The commotion was already drawing stares from other people on the pier. Natalie knew if she couldn't calm him, it could be hours before he'd be okay again. Natalie tried all of her usual soothing techniques to try and get Rudy up again. Many people were beginning to stare now. Natalie could feel their judgment on her. She was accustomed to strangers not fully understanding the situation. This never made her feel any less conscious of people's dirty looks and muttering though. Suddenly, she noticed a man who was jogging by make a beeline toward Rudy, and she grew anxious. The man was dressed in an orange and black jogging suit. His face seemed pleasant enough, but the way he walked toward them with such purpose worried Natalie. He stopped near Rudy on the ground and watched him curiously for a moment. When Natalie tried to explain what was going on, the stranger didn't seem to fully understand. In an instant, the stranger made an unexpected movement and Natalie was shocked by what he did. Natalie half expected the stranger to get angry or say something nasty or cynical. Instead, to her surprise, he got down on the ground and laid down next to Rudy and spoke to him soothingly. This seemed to take Rudy by surprise too. As he watched a brightly colored man laying next to him, Natalie saw confusion cross her son's face. Then, something even more unexpected happened. Natalie feverishly tried explaining why Rudy was on the ground. The man was unfazed at all and, oh well, if he won't get up I'll just lie down next to him so he feels more comfortable. To Natalie's utter surprise, the odd actions of the man actually had a positive effect. Perhaps it was his kind smile or soothing voice. Whatever it was about him, Natalie considered him a hero because his kind actions actually calmed Rudy down and even made him smile and laugh. Natalie Fernando had spent many years educating others to be more considerate to autistic persons. Now, a stranger had shown her how others sometimes perceived life on the spectrum. The stranger later introduced himself as Ian Shelley. Ian taught Natalie that even if a person didn't fully understand the action of an autistic child, that didn't have to stop them from caring in their own way. After thanking Ian, Natalie knew there was one more thing she had to do. Ian had not just shown kindness and compassion, but unwittingly saved Natalie from having to spend hours trying to calm her little Rue down. Rudy seemed to immediately like Ian almost as if he could sense the childlike sincerity he possessed. Making sure she got some good pictures of the pair, Natalie later added the story to her awareness blog. The reaction to Ian and his actions was overwhelmingly positive, and Natalie knew then that Ian truly was a hero for what he'd done.